President Joe Biden has just given a stirring speech at the Detroit Motor Show, claiming that his government and he himself are responsible for the manufacturing resurgence in the automotive industry in North America. In particular, the resurgence in EV manufacturing. Is this true? Well, here's what he had to say. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Now, you probably all know by now that, yes, I am a fan, in spite of the protestations of many of you emailing me telling me that I'm wrong, of the subsidies going on in the United States right now. Now, this issue is complex. I've had many of you email me telling me it's very simple. No, America has too much debt. They have trillions of dollars of debt. Therefore, there should not be any subsidies. Well, I think it's a bit more complex than that. However, there definitely has been a resurgence in the amount of money invested into the automotive industry in North America. And that is absolutely key to America's manufacturing future, to its job growth, to its GDP, and to its wanting to even exist in the automotive industry in 20 years' time from now. Why? Because I don't think Americans realize that China is making a huge attack on America. It is. It is a fact. You don't want to hear about this. You don't want to know about it. I've made videos about it. A lot of you don't watch them because you don't want to know. You don't want to know what is really going on. What is really going on is 60% of the world's electric vehicles are made in China. China wants to increase that. But put it this way, right? If China owns 60% of the automotive industry by 2030, it is game over. It is game over. That is a monopoly. That means that there is no way of making any ingress into their lead. It's well and truly finished. The race would be over. So, in my opinion, yes, Joe Biden has done the right thing in pushing for these EV tax incentives. The whole Inflation Reduction Act, I don't know all the details of all it. I don't think anyone does. It's so long and convoluted and I don't know whose fault that is, but it is long, it's convoluted, it's confusing. And truthfully, I mean, even GM and Ford are not fully clear on whether or not they'll be able to qualify to get EV incentives for their cars. I don't think anyone fully understands it yet. They need lawyers to look at this stuff. That's the only criticism I have. It's complicated. That is a fact. Now, here's what Joe Biden has been saying. He linked a resurgence of the US auto industry through a transition to EVs with a broader restoration of American greatness in a Wednesday speech. So he's saying, right, American greatness is coming back as a result of manufacturing in the US. This sounds a little bit Trumpian to me in terms of American greatness and manifest destiny and those kinds of concepts. But anyway, that's not really the point here. Biden said that the United States was once the world's clear leader in manufacturing. It wasn't that long ago. And innovation, but something went wrong along the way. And China and the rest of the world was catching up. That is changing under his administration, said Biden. Now we're choosing to build a better America. American manufacturing is roaring back. The White House says that since Biden took office, companies such as General Motors, Ford, Honda, and Panasonic have announced investments of nearly $85 billion to make electric vehicles, batteries, and EV chargers across America, including in Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Missouri, and Kansas. Biden pointed to 3 pieces of legislation he recently signed as crucial to that resurgence. He said, "I believe we can own the future of the automotive market, but Republicans and other critics are skeptical of the administration's approach, saying that it is fueling inflation through costly legislation." Biden, a self-described car guy, earlier took a strong shine to powerful sports cars while touring the auto show with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and other officials. Now, GM's CEO Mary Barra guided Biden into the driver's seat of a bright orange 2023 Chevrolet Corvette Z06, and he loudly fired up the engine before another GM executive offered Biden his hand to help him out of the car. So, as you can see, yeah, Biden's pretty good buddies, pretty good pals with the GM executives, with GM's CEO Mary Barra. He said he's driving at home, said Barra. Well, personally, I would hope that if he wants to drive a car home from the Detroit Motor Show, he's going to kind of show where the future of American manufacturing should be. And that's not in a muscle car with an internal combustion engine vehicle. Sure, muscle cars, they're fine, nothing wrong with them. But that is in an electric vehicle, not one that is powered by gas. Biden later took a test drive in an electric Cadillac Lyriq SUV through the showroom with a Secret Service agent in the passenger seat to make sure that he didn't crash it. It's a beautiful car, but I love the Corvette, the president said. Biden's approval ratings have been low amid high inflation, but they have improved somewhat recently following some congressional victories and the energizing of Democratic voters following the US Supreme Court's overturning of Roe versus Wade in June, thereby leaving women's abortion rights in the hands of individual states. Still, Democrats are worried they could lose control of the House and Senate in the November midterm elections, while Whitmer faces a re-election battle. When a reporter asked Whitmer whether she believed Biden should run again in 2024, the governor deflected the question with a laugh and he said, "I'm not having that conversation." US Republican Debbie Dingell, or Dee Dearborn, then interjected, "I'm going to tell you, if he runs, we're all supporting him. Those are questions designed to cause trouble. This is about celebrating cars today, guys." Now, she actually gave a speech that highlighted not just recent announcements from auto manufacturers about major investments expected to bring thousands of jobs to Michigan, but her administration's work in addressing areas such as boosting education funding and building up the state's rainy day fund. Now, Detroit's mayor said that this is what happens when you have a president and a governor and a mayor who all believe Detroit can lead the world in manufacturing. Can Detroit lead the world in manufacturing? That train has well and truly passed. There's statistically zero chance of that happening. But can they maintain a significant slice of manufacturing globally? Yeah, I think they possibly can. Now, the three laws that Biden pointed to in saving America's manufacturing were the $1.2 trillion federal infrastructure law, which invests $7.5 billion to build a national network of 500,000 EV chargers, plus more than $7 billion to ensure manufacturers have the minerals and other components necessary to make batteries, the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides incentives for buyers of new and used EVs and credits to help manufacturers retool, and the CHIPS and Science Act, which invests more than $50 billion in building domestic capacity for the semiconductors necessary for EVs. A shortage of semiconductors has hampered the conventional US auto industry since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Biden announced approval of the first $900 million in infrastructure law funding to build EV chargers across 53,000 miles of the national highway system and across 35 states, including Michigan. In January, GM announced it will invest $7 billion in 4 manufacturing facilities, making Michigan the hub of EV development and manufacturing. GM said it will spend $2.6 billion to build a new factory, building batteries in the Lansing area, and $4 billion to convert its existing factory in Oakland County's Orion Township to make electric pickups. So that's a good example there, right, guys? $4 billion to convert an existing factory to go from producing internal combustion engine vehicles to electric ones. $4 billion. That's a lot of money. It shows you that it's not as easy as what all the fans are claiming. The fans are saying, oh, it's easy. Toyota will just take their current factories and they'll just turn them into big EV producing factories, within a few months. It won't take them long. They're that big. They can do it. What, at a cost of $4 billion per factory? That's going to cost them tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. And guess what? Toyota has the second highest debt of any company in the world. Nearly $200 billion in debt. How much debt will banks be willing to give them once banks start to realize that the majority of Toyota's cars are internal combustion engine vehicles? Now, that's the current situation GM is in. GM pays a lot more for its debt than Tesla does. That's a fact. GM is already paying about 5.5% on its debt, when that was what Tesla was paying when it was on the verge of bankruptcy. And that's one of the key reasons why the US government just loaned General Motors $2.5 billion for a battery factory. In fact, the state has approved more than $800 million in incentives for GM as part of these project deals. So there's a lot of money going to GM and Ford from the US, both federal and state governments. What about Ford? Well, in June, Whitmer and legislative leaders joined Ford executives at Mackinac Island to announce the company would invest more than $2 billion and create 3,200 new hourly jobs in Michigan as part of a massive global transition to expand its electric vehicle production. Some of the shine came off the Ford announcement in August when the company announced that it plans 3,000 salary job cuts globally. In fact, it cut 8,000 jobs. A significant number of those were in Michigan. A Republican member of Congress and two GOP hopefuls held a teleconference call before Biden's visit to criticize the administration and its push to promote electric vehicles at a time when inflation remains stubbornly high. Why would President Biden go to Michigan and tout a plan that is really not working, said US Republican Jack Bergman R. Watersmeet, referring to administration priorities he and other Republicans argue have only exacerbated high prices and threaten to cost Americans even more in higher minimum taxes for corporations. It is really a plan that is crushing our families. President Biden has turned a recovery into a recession, Bergman added. Now, I think he's confusing two things here. This plan hasn't even started. You can't say a plan isn't working if it hasn't started yet. Let's wait a year when it actually starts getting into full swing. Once these factories start ramping EV production, once we see these incentives coming into play, let's wait a year and see what happens then before we say that it's not working. Now, when Republicans were asked what they thought about Michigan's auto industry embracing the transition to EVs and asking for federal help to move the public to buy them, the Republican candidates suggested that it's not the automakers but Biden and Democrats that are pushing them to make the change. A suggestion that is seemingly at odds with the automakers' public statements. Republicans are saying that Joe Biden's pushing them to sell EVs, not customers, and the companies don't want to do it. They're just doing it because Joe Biden is forcing them to do it. And to me, this is just nonsensical. I mean, I'm personally neither red nor blue. As you guys know, I've mentioned this on many occasions. I couldn't care less. But honestly, when I hear ridiculous comments like this, I have to say I lose faith in the believability, the plausibility, and seriously, how sincere some of these politicians actually are in helping the community. I think they just want to fight each other. They went on to say the Biden administration is on the wrong path, artificially forcing the hand of GM and Ford. Is that true? Clearly not. GM and Ford have been planning on investing billions into EVs because they know the writing is on the wall. They watch this channel. They don't want to go bankrupt. They know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know if they watch this channel. I'm just joking, by the way. But the point here is Joe Biden actually, whether or not you agree with his policies or not, he does know what's happening. He does know China is trying to take over the global automotive industry, that it's come a long way towards doing that, that it already makes 60% of the world's EVs, and he does know that they're going to take over American manufacturing unless America does something serious to stop it. And I'm glad that, something is happening for that reason. I agree with these policies, but I can understand why some of you don't. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are. Thanks for viewing. Have a great day. Bye-bye.